The transfer portal is a weird, gross, sick place. Sometimes giveth, sometimes taketh. Who knows what's happening? This much we know. Christian Miller is back in at Georgia. We talk about the impact of that, as well as other transfer candidates next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, and happy Monday to you. He is Clint. I am Daniel. Excited to be back with you. Thanks to Monopoly Go for bringing you today's episode. Download Monopoly Go for free on the App Store and Google Play Store. We are just two guys who are trying to validate our lives by recording a YouTube show and a podcast. But nonetheless, here we are talking about our favorite team, the Georgia Bulldogs, and it is the off season. But as it says, if you're watching on YouTube, as it says over on the little sidebar over there, we still got plenty to talk about. Don't let the people tell you that we don't have anything to talk about. Those people are just depressed because of the place of the house that they're having to stay in tonight. So what you need to know is that Georgia is active in the transfer portal. We talked about on Friday Jaden Rashada and the most notable addition for this Georgia team in the transfer portal. Obviously, they've gone out, picked up ETN from Florida, picked up Jake Pope from Alabama. There's been a lot of incoming transfers that we've talked about at length. Jaden Rashada, the most recent one. But there's also going to be guys that are going to leave the program. Georgia's had a couple of names, and then they've had a couple of rumors. And so we're going to start with the concrete information, and then just be warned for the loyal second and third segment listeners. Now, never mind. There's no such thing as a loyal second segment listener. You don't get a t-shirt. You don't exist.
You go all the way through on the third segment, or you stop after the first. You should stick all the way through the third. There's good stuff in the third segment.
Beware, second and third segment listeners. We are going to tiptoe into the land of wild speculation. And so people love the banter.
Gross.
People love the banter. People love the wild speculation. That much we know. But let's talk about some cold, hard facts. And the cold, hard facts are that Christian Miller, key cog in the defensive line machine, Clint, is coming back for another year at the University of Georgia. Rumored to be / maybe was in the transfer portal. It's hard to even tell.
It's hard to tell what's
did he rent did he actually sign a lease on an apartment in the transfer portal, or did he just go visit his friend who was in the transfer portal for a long weekend and then come back? Who's to say? One way or another, he's in the transfer portal. He's back out of the transfer portal. I'm going to tell you this, Clint. In segment 2, you're going to like what I'm doing here. In segment 2, I want to talk about Kirby Smart as it relates to this transfer portal situation. But in segment 1, Clint, I would like you to talk to the people about why Christian Miller's decision to come back is so pivotal for this Georgia football team, particularly on the defensive front.
Here's why, and I'll tell you why. The draft just happened this weekend. The draft did not see as many Georgia players go as in previous seasons.
More on that tomorrow.
But it means that more talent is back in Athens than went to the draft.
Hello.
What it means. Because Kirby Smart has had more first round and more draft choices in the first 7 years than any other coach in the college football era. This is fact. Again, he develops people. If you look at where these kids came out of high school, their rankings compared to where they got drafted, rankings, cold hard facts, not arbitrary numbers of feelings and thoughts of where kids should go. Kirby Smart has developed the rankings of kids coming out of high school, spend 2, 3, 4 years in Athens, and then go ahead and get drafted higher than their rankings are. Christian Miller is one of those kids. And if you look at the returning talent back on the defensive line, Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, Ingram Dawkins are in fact very talented front. We're very happy with that stability.
Probably should be in the NFL right now, along with Zion Logue, newest Atlanta Falcons. So they probably should be joining him there, but are not, to your point.
So Christian Miller and Jordan Hall, and Jarrett and Jonah Ajayi come in and their reserves, we're going to see a lot of rotation because while these seniors and juniors I listed are in fact very, very talented players, the ceiling for a guy like Christian Miller is sky high comparatively to the three guys in front of him that I listed. Christian Miller is going to be a disruptive force pass rushing on the inside. And the talent that we have coming back that didn't go to the draft, that came back to Athens, will be a stabilizing force.
There it is.
Christian Miller, don't mistake anything. He's the guy that I'm most excited for on this defensive line because unlike the other guys, he may be out of position a couple of times. That might be true. He may miss a guess on a gap because he's not as senior as some of these other guys. But if you want to talk about pressure from inside the pocket, it's Christian Miller. And I'm thrilled that he is back with this because we're going to see more hockey line changes. These are not the Jordan Davises, the defensive line that just you knew who the three guys were, right? You knew who the three down defensive linemen were every play. That's not who these dogs are. We have stabilizing force, but we need high ceiling guys, and that's what Christian Miller is. So I'm thrilled that he is back in the fold, coming out of the portal. If he wasn't even officially in the portal, I don't know if the paperwork got finished, rumored to be. But Daniel, make no mistake, this guy is a real deal. We're going to be coming back. Daniel teased a little bit about saying, hey, what does Kirby mean for the portal? We gave you what Kirby meant for the recruiting of NIL and whatnot, but this just in, he's king of the portal as well. Daniel's going to let you know why after this. And this is, in fact, Monopoly Go. Daniel and I have a huge competitive side. We get into lots of competitive situations. Ask people who try to guard us on the basketball court. Daniel gets guarded because he can drain the jump shot. I get guarded and people slip off me because sweat is just pouring off me and I'm driving to the hoop as much as I possibly can. But either way,
this is exactly how Monopoly expected this ad read to go, by the way.
But don't worry, we're talking about Monopoly Go. You've already known that 150 million people download it, and right now you can team with friends for time tournaments. You can work together to build each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. There's so much more. Unique stackers. You can trade with friends to compete in big prizes, cool new play pieces, hilarious emojis for taunting friends. Play Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments, challenges, a ton included with our own unique miniature games. Right now, there's always new times events to help you win big, massive multipliers for everything you win or rent freezes. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So go get off the bench and go download it for free at Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Daniel, you teased before we went to this that Kirby Smart is, in fact, king of the portal as well. Why do you say that, and what gives you that indication?
Yeah, before we get into that, let me piggyback on what you were saying. We've identified on this podcast before, earlier in the offseason, 3 sophomores to watch for on the defensive line. You mentioned all 3 of them, but just want to reiterate them for the people. Christian Miller, a redshirt sophomore. I get it. This is 3rd year in the program, but he is a redshirt sophomore. And then combine him with true sophomores, Jordan Hall and Jamal Jarrett. That's the future of the defensive line. Those are the guys that I think have the highest ceiling of any of the defensive linemen, including the veterans. And I think you're going to see a lot of those guys this year. And so not only is the Christian Miller return going to be significantly important for this season in Athens, but it's going to be wildly important for the future in Athens as well, Clint, because as he solidifies his role on the team this year, as he gets better from all that competition, like we talked about when we talked about quarterbacks and Jaden Rashada, as he gets better from all that coaching that he's going to be getting from Trey Scott, which who you know is the king of developing defensive linemen, that's only going to serve Georgia well as we move forward into the future. Listen, I don't follow every team in college football as closely as I follow the Georgia Bulldogs. Some have even called me a homer, Clint. Some people have been so gross as to wildly accuse me of being exactly what I am, which is a fan of the Georgia football team. So I can't speak definitively to every team in America, Clint, but I cannot imagine that there is any team in the country that has more players test the waters of the transfer portal.
And then what do they do?
And then decide, oh no, in the words of Joe Bluth, I've made a huge mistake. I need to come back home. The grass isn't greener out there.
No.
In fact, the grass is dead and decrepit, and
decaying.
it is gross out here. I can't substantiate this with any data. I'm just telling you anecdotally, I see players think to themselves, because they get a little bug in their ear, Clint. They get a little birdie in the ear whispering to them, you know what? You could probably get that NIL money out here. You could probably go over here. You could probably, if you put your name in that portal, you might be able to go somewhere fun. You might be able to go somewhere new, somewhere exciting, and you might be able to get this little NIL. And then they get out there, they test the waters, and it's not every player. There's plenty of players that transfer out of Georgia. And there's plenty of starters that transfer out of Georgia. Jamon Dumas-Johnson is a great example of a multi-year starter that transfers out of Georgia. Now, we can hazard speculative guesses as to why that went down, but nonetheless,
CJ Allen.
There are players who choose to leave Georgia and decide that's not a good fit for them. Bear Alexander, another name that comes to mind.
How'd that work out?
And again, I think that the more it happens, honestly, Georgia fans, I brought up that name on purpose because I think you ought to thank Bear Alexander because as much as it hurt to lose a talented player, and make no mistake, Bear Alexander is a very talented player. As much as it hurt to lose a talented player to what I believe is now indisputably a poor decision, right? Is anyone going to argue me that it was a poor decision on Bear Alexander's part to transfer? No. I think Georgia fans, you might ought to thank him because I think the Kristen Millers of the world see that poor decision and it causes them to slow their roll just a little bit. Kirby Smart has shown you that, you mentioned it when we talked about Jane Rashada. There's no one in all of college football who is as relentless as Kirby Smart. Jackhammer. Insatiable. Like, these are the words I would use to describe Kirby Smart. So he's going to continue to recruit you if he wants you.
See, there's the key.
After you're in the transfer portal, even on his own team. So don't act like that Kristen Miller went into Kirby's office, said, Coach, I'm going to go and pursue what's best for me out there. And Kirby, I don't know how that conversation went. But I do know that a couple days later, Kristen Miller came back and said, you know what? I think what's best for me is actually right here. And what did Kirby do? He welcomes him back into the fold because he is a player Kirby Smart wants.
Go test this with your boss. If you go talk to your boss and say, hey, I'm thinking about transferring to this other organization.
Some of y'all best not do this. You better not do this.
And your boss says, yeah, go talk to him. Okay.
I hope it works out for you.
Fine by me. Then,
that's why I say some of y'all don't play with fire here.
But if all of a sudden your boss goes, oh no, you are?
What can I do to get you to stay?
Let's talk. See, this is part, again, like it or not, it's part of the game right now. And Kirby Smart is king of saying, all right, Kristen, just so you know, here's what I have planned for you. Just so you know, here's where I see you. And just so you know, here's how I developed round 1, round 2, round 3 franchise type talents all the way up and down the NFL who guys are looking at. That's what's going on. We're going to come back after this, talk more portal news and what it means for Georgia. But first, these. These are, in fact, FanDuel's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing. How about them Braves? FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Marcelo Zuna, I love you. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, but that's not it. There's also Game Time, Daniel. Game Time is fantastic.
Love them.
Because we use it literally, personally. Daniel and I use it to get tickets into the games.
Absolutely.
Concerts, football games. We're still looking at a couple of games to go to this fall. We cannot be more excited.
Don't act like this fall I'm not going to be using it to buy some basketball tickets to Georgia basketball either, okay?
Because Mike White, we see you cooking and just
we see
keep
you
on
and just
doing.
Get out of the man's way. He's in the kitchen. He's got something brewing.
Right now, pick the games, matchups you'd like to attend, talk, and figure out how you can talk through with friends of getting tickets that you can see from your seat and what you want to expect. Deals are fantastic, especially last-minute deals. Save up to 60% on buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. We even have zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right, Clint. We're now entering the territory of wild speculation.
Get the buckets.
Listen, we don't know. Portal news is weird. We don't know how. We don't know when it's coming.
Listening to anybody who knows anything about portal, you don't know.
If anybody talks about so-and-so's camp, if they use those words, you're going to want to just steer the other direction in your personal life.
These people have secret militia insignia tattooed on their body somewhere. Okay?
I don't know why it's true, but it's definitely true. Definitely true. There's a Chinese symbol for something on tattooed on that man's body. I'll tell you that right now.
It's the wrong word.
It's not the word he thinks it is. I'll tell you that. Welcome to the third segment, by the way.
We love the banter here.
We out here. You know you getting the banter if you stay to the third segment. All right. There's been rumors about Roderick Robinson. There's been rumors about Ra Thomas.
Social media accounts scrubbed of all UGA for a hot minute.
There's been no news breaking. These people are not actually in the transfer portal at the time of this recording. By the time this airs, they might be. But Clint, Georgia's gonna lose folks to the portal.
No, we have to lose folks because we don't have enough scholarships.
You're just gonna have to embrace that, Georgia fans, and realize that it's the same as a guy committing to Auburn out of high school. You understand? Georgia doesn't get all the 5-star recruits. They just don't. Sometimes Alabama gets them. Sometimes Florida State gets them. Sometimes Auburn gets them. Florida very rarely, if ever, gets them. But sometimes they choose to go other places. When players transfer out of your program, it's just a part and parcel of the game. So we're each going to give you a name. And this is not a name that we've not spoken to anyone's camps. We don't have any insignias.
No,
there's nothing. There's nothing you need to be concerned about your boys. We're still not gurus. We're still not insiders. But these are just names that wouldn't surprise us.
Correct.
If at some point, either later this offseason or maybe moving into a year in the future, you saw in the transfer portal. Clint, if we each give a name, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I want you to go first, Daniel.
I got Ja'Cory Thomas.
That's
my name. Okay, so
it's a big time recruit.
Ja'Cory Thomas. He's now in his third year in Athens, and he played sparingly his first year, but last year was in quite a bit. Safety prospect, obviously not a safety prospect. He is a safety on Georgia's team, and got in quite a bit, and in obviously reserve action, recorded a handful of tackles, 9 tackles, I think is the number here from last year. And he plays a little star. He plays a little safety.
Yep.
This was the off season, I think, for Ja'Cory Thomas. Like, this was the one in which he was going to elevate himself into a spot on this roster in the rotation. And it ain't Labor Day weekend yet, Clint. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but that's not. It's not even right around the corner. May God have mercy on our souls. It's a long way away, Labor Day weekend. And so JaCorey Thomas still got time. He still has, there's been no decisions made, this just in, about who's going to play safety for Georgia or star for Georgia this spring. But it does not appear at time of this recording that JaCorey Thomas is in the driver's seat for any of those positions. We mentioned after G-Day, we liked how Jonell played. It feels like Jonell has a leg up on the competition at star, meaning that obviously you have Malachi Starks. And if you have Jonell Aguero, then you really are left of the 3 pseudo safety spots on the field. You're really left with 1, and everyone else is competing for 1 spot. That's just simply a lot of names to be competing for 1 spot. You've got David Daniel. You've got Kyron Jones. You've got oh gosh, I'm blanking on all the other names. Obviously, you got the true freshman whose name is what's that kid's name?
You talking about Jonah?
No, I'm talking about the freshman this year, the 5-star kid, KJ. KJ Bolden.
Yeah.
Good Lord. We host a podcast talking about Georgia football. If you want to be a part of it,
it's fine.
It's late at night. There's a lot of names. They're all competing for 1 spot, and so yeah. If I saw JaCorey Thomas in the transfer portal, I'm trying to tell you, he's a really good football player.
Yes, he is.
And he might leave Georgia.
The name I have is also a talented guy who's kind of stuck behind, because if you want to talk about stacked recruiting classes, look at the defensive end position and then outside backers. I'm just going to name them at edge because that's what Georgia does. Michael Williams gets the changeover, who could be in line for a huge, huge season. I'm going to list you 3 sophomores: Mpemba, Wilson, and Harris. Daniel, one of them gone. Like, I don't know how to tell. One of them gone. My guess is Harris. I don't like that. I don't want it to be. I hope it's not. I hope none of these kids go. But Mpemba and Wilson have shown something to me, flashes. Gabe Harris has also, but same exact situation. You just described it. Talented guys ahead of him. Stacked depth chart. And that's where we're at. When Georgia says we want talent, they get talent in, we compete. The loser of the competition has a choice: stay, get developed, and get some NIL money and wait for the bag to come in the draft, or go get the bag now and hope that you can show out in a smaller school, a smaller stage, or a different stage in a different conference and lack it out. I think Gabe Harris is the odd man out in that. Again, no word from any camp, no word from any person. This is just simply looking at and observing the situation. My guess is Gabe Harris as well. It's very similar that we're on the defensive side. We're in a stacked position group with lots of young guys in it. I think he's the odd man out. This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. We'll be back tomorrow where we talking about development under Kirby Smart. And
it's pretty good.
He's the best.
It's pretty okay, I guess.
He's the best. We'll see you guys then.